Chapter 791. The commotion instantly attracted the attention of the men in black from further away, and soul lasers were immediately blasted toward them in a concentrated manner. Look out! They've got a soul cannon. Shishi's voice rang out, and Tang Wuling reflexively turned around to discover a man in black with a cannon hoisted up on his shoulder, and the opening of its barrel was aimed directly at him. In the next instant, a ball of bright purple light whistled through the air toward him. Tang Wuling harumphed coldly, and golden light flashed from his body as his first golden soul ring lit up, activating his golden dragon body. Thus, his entire body was covered in golden scales, and he immediately lashed out toward the ball of purple light with his left golden dragon claw. The soul cannon blast was destroyed by Tang Wuling's bare hand amid a resounding boom. Immense explosive force surged toward his body as a result, but it couldn't even force him back a single step. At the same time, the soul master using the soul cannon had already toppled to the ground. Shishi had taken him out right after he'd alerted Tang Wuling. In terms of speed, Shishi was definitely the best among their entire team. In the face of these men in black, most of whom were only soul elders, an agility attack system battle soul master like him was most effective. His shadow dragon dagger traversed between the realms of illusion and reality, and one black figure was felled after another. Tang Wuling was situated at the center of the group, protecting Xu Lizzie and Xu Xiaoyuan while appraising the entire battlefield. Meanwhile, Shishi, Yuan and Yui, Yue Hengyu, and Yu Xinglan had rushed out to battle these terrorists. There were no worthy threats discovered, and dozens of men in black were crushed with ease in the face of the devastating might of Shrek's 7 monsters. All of a sudden, a strong sense of foreboding welled up in his heart, and he immediately turned around before wrapping his arms around Xu Lizzie and Xu Xiaoyuan, then abruptly rolled off to the side. A grey streak of light flashed past, leaving a rift in the ground that was 5 meters long, 1 meter wide, and so deep that the bottom couldn't be seen from up above. What was even more terrifying was that the ground on the two sides of the rift was still being rapidly eroded away, thereby further widening the rift. That's an evil soul master. Tang Wuling exclaimed. How dare you try to impede our operation? Your soul will be tormented for all of eternity. A cold voice reverberated through the air, and a figure also slowly emerged while hovering in midair. The evil soul master's body was completely enshrouded under a grey robe, and he gave off an extremely dark and sinister aura. There were a total of 7 soul rings around him, consisting of 2 yellows, 3 purples, and 2 blacks. This man was an evil soul master of the soul sage level. Furthermore, he wasn't the only grey figure to appear. One grey figure emerged in midair after another, as if a spatial door had been opened up in the darkness, and there were over 10 of them. Even the weakest among them had 4 soul rings, but there was only one 7-ring soul sage in their ranks. Aside from that, there were 4 6-ring soul emperors while the rest were all soul ancestors and soul kings. Tang Wuling's heart sank slightly upon seeing this. If these grey robes indicated that all of these people were evil soul masters, then the fact that over 10 of them had appeared undoubtedly posed an extremely potent threat. Evil soul masters were referred to as such because they were able to use very cruel and heinous methods to progress in their cultivation. Not only did they progress extremely quickly, their abilities were also very sinister, so evil soul masters were far more powerful than normal soul masters of the same cultivation rank. They existed solely to destroy, as evil cultivation methods would inevitably warp their personalities, thereby making them unable to control themselves from giving into their destructive urges. Go help everyone else. Leave this to me. Tang Wuling waved a hand toward Xu Lizzie and Xu Xiaoyuan, who was standing behind him. Both of them were aware of just how powerful Tang Wuling was, so they immediately rushed toward the others without any hesitation. All the members of Shrek's 7 monsters had fought alongside one another for a long time, so all of them had a tacit understanding over one another, and everyone quickly converged toward Tang Wuling after witnessing the arrival of these evil soul masters. Meanwhile, the evil soul masters had also sprung into action, wasting no time with words as they unleashed their attacks. There were still over 20 men in black left, and after witnessing the arrival of the evil soul masters, they immediately dispersed before charging toward the carriages again. This operation had clearly been planned out in advance, and these evil soul masters had been lurking in the shadows, preparing for this exact situation. An evil soul master in the air spread open his arms, and plumes of grey mist abruptly erupted from his body, following which he hurtled toward Tang Wuling in a flash, moving at an alarming speed. This grey-robed man was significantly faster than even Shishi, and Tang Wuling could catch sight of a blow hurtling toward him before a pair of sharp claws lashed out toward him, one of which was reaching for his face while the other made a grab for his chest. The outcome of being struck by these attacks was quite obvious. This was an agility attack system evil soul master. Tang Wuling stood his ground and didn't retreat. Against such a fast opponent, retreating wouldn't do him any good. Golden light shimmered from his body, and he crossed his pair of golden dragon claws to shield himself. So what if he was facing a 7-ring soul sage? He'd even dared to stand up against Long Yue back when he was only a 4-ring soul ancestor. Since then, he'd become a 5-ring soul king, and he was far more powerful than he had been in the past. His second golden soul ring lit up, and in that instant, all of the scales on his entire body became mirror surfaces. 2 crisp clangs rang out as one of the evil soul master's claws struck Tang Wuling's chest and arm. 2 bursts of glacial energy immediately surged into his body, but his enormous golden dragon king bloodline instantly erupted, thereby keeping the glacial energy at bay. The evil soul master felt as if his claws had struck an impenetrable fortress, following which the scales on his opponent's body quickly began to shimmer. Roar! A loud dragon's roar rang out as a massive golden dragon head shot forth from between Tang Wuling's hands. At the same time, his third soul ring also lit up. Another violent dragon's roar erupted, and the evil soul master felt his blood essence begin to surge throughout his body in an uncontrollable manner. In the next instant, the golden dragon head was upon him. Tang Wuling had just unleashed his golden dragon shocks the heavens and golden dragon roar in quick succession. Tang Wuling had to take care of this 7-ring evil soul master as quickly as possible so he could go and help his friends. As such, he hadn't held back in the slightest, even though this was only the opening exchange of their battle. His golden dragon roar was a skill with an ability to stun his opponent, and it was especially potent against opponents with dragon-type martial souls. This evil soul master's martial soul wasn't related to dragons, and his cultivation rank was far higher than that of Tang Wuling. But Tang Wuling was no longer the same person that he was 4 years ago. He had been enhanced by the energy from so many dragon spirits in the Dragon Valley, and his bloodline aura had become far more powerful than it had been in the past. This golden dragon roar rang out across the entire battlefield, causing all of the evil soul masters present to become more sluggish, and this effect was obviously the most potent against this 7-ring evil soul master who was situated the closest to Tang Wuling. However, it had to be said that this evil soul master was certainly no slouch. In the instant that he was struck by the golden dragon shocks the heavens, he was immediately sent flying, but he reacted extremely quickly. His 5th soul ring lit up, and his entire body transformed into a cloud of grey mist. The golden dragon shocks the heavens passed directly through the mist, but was unable to inflict any damage on the evil soul master. The mist converged again in the distance, and the 7-ring evil soul master had clearly been enraged. He let loose a sharp screech, and the grey mist around his body suddenly increased in density. His 3rd soul ring lit up, and an overwhelming odor of blood and gore began to emanate from his body. Tang Wuling was struck by a rush of dizziness, following which his blood began to churn violently, as if it were threatening to gush out of his body. This was the first time he'd encountered such a scenario. It seemed that his opponent's soul skill was able to control his blood. Despite his surprise, Tang Wuling harumphed coldly and forcibly regulated his blood circulation. Brilliant golden light erupted from his body, and under the effect of his opponent's soul skill, it seemed to have become slightly easier for him to activate his bloodline power. Chapter 792. Tang Wuling stepped forward and sprang up into the air. He didn't unleash his martial soul as he knew that it wouldn't help him much in this battle after witnessing his opponent's ability to transform into mist. Seeing as that was the case, it was better to refrain from unleashing his martial soul to conserve his soul power. Tang Wuling threw a punch in midair, and a dragon's roar erupted from his body again. This was a very simple punch with no extra frills nor fancy tricks, but in the instant that it was unleashed, his entire body was unfurled, striking one with the impression that he was a giant dragon that had just awakened from his slumber. His entire body was thrown behind his punch, as his right fist hurtled through the air, an area with a diameter of 3 meters around him turned into a dazzling golden color. In the next instant, his entire body suddenly flashed, and a golden streak of light that was several dozens of meters long appeared in the air. The golden streak of light vanished almost as soon as it appeared, and the evil soul master was able to transform his body into a cloud of mist again. But even so, he still let loose a cry of anguish. After he reverted back to his human form, his body swayed, and he plummeted to the ground. Golden Dragon takes flight. This was a technique unleashed by compressing his bloodline power to a certain point before releasing all of that power in an instantaneous devastating attack. In that state, Tang Wulin's body was virtually invincible, and he was able to concentrate all of his power to one spot, much like Yu Xinglan was able to focus her power entirely on the tip of her sword. However, there were two main limitations to this attack. It only had an effective range of 30 meters, and it could only attack in a straight line. However, the explosive attack unleashed by using this technique was 3 times more powerful than his normal attacks. This was the third of Chawoshi's 9 arts of the Scarlet Dragon. Dragon takes flight. To put it more accurately, these were the 9 arts of the Golden Dragon to Tang Wulin. So this attack was Golden Dragon takes flight. In that instant, Tang Wulin was like the true Golden Dragon King, brandishing his claws in a menacing manner, determined to slay any beings who dared to stand in his path. This was the first time that Tang Wulin had unleashed Golden Dragon takes flight in a real battle, and it had been extremely effective. Not only had his soul and bloodline powers been infused into this attack, his spiritual power also played a role. So this was a technique that assaulted the enemy in all areas. As such, even after adopting his mist form, the Evil Soul Master was still affected by that attack. After crashing down to the ground, the Evil Soul Master didn't dare to take his opponent lightly anymore. Specks of grey light began to emerge all over his body, and tree leaf-like pieces of armor encapsulated his entire body. At the same time, a pair of grey wings unfurled on his back, giving him the appearance of a giant bat. This was a winged suit of battle armor, so it was a suit of 2-word battle armor. Not only was this Evil Soul Master a 7-ring soul sage, he was also a 2-word battle armor master. After summoning his suit of battle armor, the Evil Soul Master's aura transformed drastically. One had to realize that a suit of battle armor could significantly enhance a soul master's powers. Even though 7-ring soul sage in a suit of 2-word battle armor still couldn't compare to a titled Douluo, they were most definitely more powerful than an 8-ring soul Douluo. The surrounding area was suddenly plunged into complete darkness, and the Evil Soul Master threw his head back before letting loose a sharp screech. Tang Wulin felt as if a sharp spike had been driven into his head, striking him with a splitting headache. At the same time, his bloodline began to churn wildly in an uncontrollable manner again. What was even more alarming to Tang Wulin was that after he lost control over his bloodline power, it began to surge toward his ninth Golden Dragon King seal. He was right in the middle of a battle. Breaking his ninth seal now would be akin to committing suicide. With that in mind, Tang Wulin hurriedly bit down on the tip of his tongue to regain some mental clarity. Specks of golden light then began to emerge all over his body as he released his own suit of battle armor. Pieces of golden armor appeared to encapsulate his entire body, and with the enhancements brought to him by his suit of battle armor, Tang Wulin was finally able to control his bloodline again. The visor fell to conceal his handsome face, and he swept his right hand over his forehead, following which his golden dragon spear instantly appeared in his hand. Thus, he was wearing a suit of golden armor with a golden visor while wielding a golden dragon spear, giving him the appearance of a scintillating golden war god. He raised his golden dragon spear before him, and bright golden light erupted from his eyes. He squatted down slightly, then propelled himself toward the Evil Soul Master again. His golden dragon spear pierced through the air like lightning, sending spear projections hurtling through his opponent. However, a peculiar scene then unfolded. The Evil Soul Master's body seemed to be completely weightless as he flashed through the air at an alarming speed, thereby allowing him to evade all of the attacks from Tang Wulin's golden dragon spear just in the nick of time. With the enhancements from his suit of 2-word battle armor, his sharp claws had already elongated to over a foot in length and had taken on a grey crystalline appearance. As the Evil Soul Master evaded Tang Wulin's attacks, he would occasionally throw in an attack of his own using those sharp claws. His attacks were simply too fast for Tang Wulin to be able to evade all of them, and as soon as the claw strikes landed, they would leave a few white marks on his suit of 1-word battle armor. However, it was at times like this that the immense defensive prowess of Tang Wulin's suit of battle armor really came to the fore. Every time the Evil Soul Master's attack struck the suit of battle armor, scale-like patterns would appear over its surface, thereby significantly nullifying the force of the attacks. Generally speaking, a 2-word battle armor master would be able to crush a 1-word battle armor master with ease, but this was clearly not the case here. Of course, this could partially be attributed to the fact that Tang Wulin's suit of 1-word battle armor had been constructed from spirit alloys, but it was more of a testament to the immense defensive prowess that Tang Wulin possessed. However, Tang Wulin was certainly not enjoying the current situation either. His opponent was far too fast and flashed through the night like an unpredictable wraith, so none of his immensely powerful attacks were able to strike their target. This kind of opponent was extremely troublesome for him to deal with as he was unable to truly make use of his strengths against them. Similarly, the Evil Soul Master was also having a hard time bringing down Tang Wulin. The latter's defensive prowess was simply far too powerful, and the Evil Soul Master had learned his lesson after being struck by the Golden Dragon takes flight. As such, he had become extremely cautious and was adopting guerrilla warfare tactics, slowly wearing down Tang Wulin's soul power while constantly searching for holes in Tang Wulin's defense. Thus, an arduous battle ensued, and the other 6 members of Shrek's 7 monsters were also struggling. A total of 11 Evil Soul Masters had surrounded them, and they were unleashing attacks in a torrential barrage. Evil Soul Masters belonged to a completely different system in the world of Soul Masters, and this applied to their martial souls as well. If one were to pursue the path of becoming an Evil Soul Master, then the abilities they attained through cultivation would also be vastly different from that of normal Soul Masters. The 6-ring Evil Soul Masters leading from the front were the most troublesome to deal with. All of them were 1-word battle armor masters, and their martial souls were also extremely strange. One of the 6-ring Evil Soul Masters had transformed into a massive armored skeleton that was around 8 meters tall and constructed from extremely thick bones. The suit of armor it was wearing was none other than a suit of 1-word battle armor, and it was wielding a massive blade that was around 7 meters long. Thankfully, Shrek's 7 monsters had Yuan and Nui among their ranks. She released her Titan giant ape martial soul, and was wielding her pair of giant hammers to keep the massive skeleton's attacks at bay. The second 6-ring Evil Soul Master bore a strong resemblance to a clown. One side of his face was white while the other half was black, thereby creating a very unsettling appearance. He was cackling incessantly while spinning relentlessly on the spot, and a series of curses, such as hesitation and horror, were being cast onto the 6 members of Shrek's 7 monsters, thereby constantly debilitating them. Furthermore, he was situated behind all of the other Evil Soul Masters, so there was no way to get to him. The third 6-ring Evil Soul Master had transformed into a giant wolf with an overwhelming stench of blood and gore emanating from its body. It was picking up the corpses of men in black during battle, and it specifically devoured the hearts of those bodies. With every heart that it consumed, its offensive prowess would be enhanced. Its entire body was covered in metallic grey fur, and even Yu Xinglan's Star God sword was unable to pierce through his suit of battle armor. The fourth 6-ring Evil Soul Master appeared to be the most normal among the 4 as, at the very least, he looked like a human. He was riding a skeletal horse that was entirely enshrouded in black flames, giving him the appearance of a mythical horseman of the apocalypse. His entire body was encapsulated in a suit of heavy black armor, and he was wielding a claymore as he engaged in a fierce battle with Yue's Hengyu. Yuan and Nui was facing the skeletal Evil Soul Master. Yu Xinglan was taking on the giant wolf Evil Soul Master, and Yue's Hengyu was combating a horse rider Evil Soul Master. All 3 of them were struggling somewhat in their battles. Among Soul Masters of the same cultivation rank, Evil Soul Masters were generally more powerful than normal Soul Masters. Shrek's 7 monsters clearly weren't normal Soul Masters, but the Evil Soul Masters they were facing were also of higher cultivation ranks than them. Furthermore, they had a control system of Evil Soul Master constantly casting all types of curses to weaken them. Shishi really wanted to take out that clown Evil Soul Master, but the problem was that he had to stay behind to protect Shu Lizzie and Shu Xiaoan. Both of them simply didn't have enough direct combat prowess to protect themselves, and if Shishi were to leave, other Evil Soul Masters would definitely swoop in to kill them. Among the remaining 7 Evil Soul Masters, 5 were 5-ring Soul Kings, 2 of which were 1-word battle armor masters, and the remaining 2 were both 4-ring Soul Ancestors. Chapter 793. The 7 Evil Soul Masters were attacking from all sides, and Shishi was having a very hard time keeping them at bay. He had already summoned 3 clones, thereby allowing him to fight on 4 different sides, and he was the member of Shrek's 7 monsters who was under the most pressure. At a time like this, all of the grueling training and cultivation that he'd adhered to really shone through. Despite the fact that there were 4 of him battling different opponents, he was able to control all of his clones very well. This was obviously quite difficult for him, but thankfully, he had Shu Xiaoan to assist him in controlling the situation. Shu Xiaoan didn't rush to unleash her most powerful controlling soul skills, but whenever Shishi found himself in trouble, she was always able to defuse the situation with timely Star Wheel shackles. Boom! Yuan and Nui swung the hammer in her right hand upward to block the skeleton Evil Soul Master's massive saber, then lashed out horizontally with the hammer in her left hand, swinging it directly toward her opponent's chest. The skeleton evil soul master let loose a low roar, and spiritual flames began to flicker in his eye sockets. He squatted down and brought his giant saber down along with his body before using it as a shield. Another loud boom rang out, and both the skeleton evil soul master and Yuan and Yui were forced back a step in unison. The two of them seemed to be evenly matched in strength. Yi Xingling held a slight advantage on her end, even though it was very difficult for her Star God sword to penetrate the giant wolf evil soul master's defenses. It was important to note that not only did her Star God sword possess sword chi, it was also able to unleash sword intent. The sharp sword intent was constantly placing pressure on the giant wolf evil soul master, and after discovering that her opponent could enhance his own powers through eating hearts, she had managed to prevent him from eating more hearts through the ferocity of her sustained assault. Yui's Hengyu was evenly matched with his opponent. The rider was able to draw upon the power of his skeletal speed to unleash tremendous dark energy, but the holy angel martial soul just so happened to be extremely potent against his powers of darkness. Light and darkness clashed over and over again, exploding to form a vast expanse of devastating energy storms. However, it was currently night time, so Yui's Hengyu's holy powers were clearly at a disadvantage. The dark rider steed seemed to be a part of his own body as he was able to control it in an extremely masterful manner. Every time he lashed out with his claymore, powerful black flames would erupt from the skeletal horse in the exact same instant. Powerful energy fluctuations would surge forth as a result, and the black flames would combine with the claymore to further enhance the weapon's powers. Meanwhile, Yui's Hengyu had his wings spread open, and he'd already donned his suit of pure white battle armor. He was unleashing his light of judgment over and over again to launch retaliation attacks. However, the rider and his skeletal steed formed an extremely troublesome combination to deal with, and neither side could seize supremacy over the other. Unfortunately for Yui's Hengyu, the dark rider clearly had a greater abundance of soul power. Shu Lizzie was the one who was doing the least among everyone. At this point, he'd also donned his suit of battle armor, which was also white, but it was a different white compared to that of Yui's Hengyu's suit of battle armor. There was no holy aura emanating from it, but the suit of armor appeared to be extremely thick and robust. He was quite tall and broad to begin with, and his suit of battle armor concealed his rotund figure, giving him a burly and intimidating appearance instead. He was standing right beside Shu Shaowen like a loyal guardian. An arduous battle had ensued while the men in black in the distance continued to slaughter passengers in the broken carriages. Tang Wolin was keeping an eye on the entire battlefield while battling his own opponent, and it only took him a few glances to grasp the situations that his friends were in. They couldn't afford to delay any longer, otherwise, hundreds of lives would be lost on the entire Soul Train. With that in mind, Tang Wolin suddenly raised his head and let loose a loud cry. Let's end this. At the same time, scintillating golden light erupted from his suit of battle armor, and his aura instantly transformed. His feet landed on the ground, and it was as if he transformed into an immovable mountain. A halo of earthy brown light began to radiate outward from his torso. While this halo of light was being released, the seven-ring evil soul master was suddenly struck by the feeling that his body had been filled with lead, and he was forced to descend onto the ground. When he tried to pierce through Tang Wolin's chest with his sharp claws again, he was struck by an extremely fearsome burst of recoil force that flung his arms up into the air. Tang Wolin stomped his right foot into the ground. Golden dragon shakes the earth. 8 small dragons erupted from the ground beneath his feet, and the immense shock from the attack instantly numbed the seven-ring evil soul master's entire body. He had also heard the loud cry that Tang Wolin had just let loose, and following this sudden development, he immediately unleashed his 5th soul skill without any hesitation. At the same time, his 7th soul ring also lit up. In that instant, Tang Wolin finally realized what this evil soul master's martial soul was. A massive armor-clad bat emerged before Tang Wolin. This was a vampire bat. With this martial soul, it was no wonder that this evil soul master was so fast and could control the blood within other people's bodies. It turned out that his martial soul itself was directly related to blood. However, even after unleashing his 7th soul skill, Vampire Bat True Body, he was still unable to immediately struggle free from the immense suction force emanating from the ground below. Meanwhile, Tang Wolin had begun to unleash his attacks. Golden Dragon Shakes the Earth managed to paralyze the vampire bat's entire body, but with the powerful defensive prowess of his martial soul True Body, the evil soul master was only immobilized for a split second before he tried to fly away in retreat. However, the suction force emanating from the brown halo radiating from Tang Wolin's body was simply too powerful, and it had severely restricted his speed. At this moment, Tang Wolin descended from up above and brought his golden dragon spear down like a powerful whip. At the same time, he let loose a thunderous roar. Golden Dragon Roar. Purple light also erupted from his eyes as he unleashed his purple demon eyes. Tang Wolin had unleashed all of his control-type soul skills in an instant. The vampire bat had no choice but to instantly disintegrate into a cloud of mist in order to try and flee the immediate vicinity. However, the spiritual attack unleashed by the purple demon eyes delayed his transformation by a split second, and that was enough to seal Tang Wolin's victory. A golden figure rose up silently from the ground before winding itself around the vampire bat's body, then pulling him downward. At the same time, the golden dragon spear finally struck his body right before he was able to disintegrate into a cloud of mist. The seven-ring evil soul master let loose an anguished howl, and large sections of his suit of two-word battle armor were shattered as he was slammed into the ground. Tang Wolin raised his right foot, and his body rose straight up into the air. A colossal figure then appeared in his place. It was none other than his second soul spirit, the tyrant dragon. The tyrant dragon stomped down viciously onto the seven-ring evil soul nader's body with its right foot. The tyrant dragon was around 60 meters tall, and even with Tang Wolin's 100-ton strength, it would be impossible for him to move the dragon's enormous weight. It was one of the most terrifying land predators, and the devastating might of its stomp made the entire earth quake violently. Even the soul train carriages in the distance were swaying from side to side from the tremors running through the ground. Tang Wolin pointed a finger at the closest carriage to him and instructed, "Goldsong, go." Goldsong, which had just wound itself around the evil soul master's body, immediately shot forth like a speeding arrow toward the men in black at Tang Wolin's behest. Wisps of mist began to escape from beneath the tyrant dragon's feet before attempting to rapidly flee into the distance. Steam suddenly began to billow out of the tyrant dragon's nostrils, and immediately thereafter, it abruptly opened its mouth to let loose a burst of crimson flames. In his mist form, the vampire bat evil soul master's forte lay in his ability to evade physical attacks. However, the downside was that in this form, energy-based attacks would be several times more powerful against him. Thus, he was struck by the terrifying pillar of flames amid a howl of anguish. However, it was also right at this moment that countless tiny bats erupted from within the mist before flying away in all directions. It seemed as if there were no end to the life-saving skills the evil soul master had up his sleeve. Chapter 794. Tang Wolin harumphed coldly, and he suddenly slammed his right hand into his own chest as he stood atop the head of the tyrant dragon. Another brown halo of light immediately proliferated from his body. An enormous gravitational force descended from up above, forcing all of the tiny bats onto the ground. Immediately thereafter, blue silver emperor vines erupted from the ground as part of his blue silver impaling array. All of the tiny bats were skewered by the sharp vines one after another, and Tang Wolin made sure that the seven-ring evil soul master was well and truly dead. The tyrant dragon then turned around and rushed directly toward another battlefield. With every step it took, its colossal paws sent violent tremors running through the ground. After burying all of the skeletons in the dragon valley, Tang Wolin discovered that his tyrant dragon soul spirit had somehow attained a substantial form. During the burial process, Tang Wolin recalled that as he was burying the skeleton of a winged tyrant dragon, his tyrant dragon soul spirit suddenly appeared and devoured that skeleton. After that, it hibernated for an entire year, and when it reawakened, Tang Wolin was able to summon it to assist him directly in battle. However, recruiting its assistance came at a price. Maintaining this tyrant dragon soul spirit required an immense rate of soul power expenditure. With Tang Wolin's current supply of soul power, he could only maintain the tyrant dragon for around half a minute. However, on a battlefield like this, having such a powerful ally by his side for half a minute was enough to sway the course of the entire battle. In just the first few seconds that the tyrant dragon had appeared, Tang Wolin had slain a seven-ring soul sage. In the instant that Tang Wolin had let loose that loud cry earlier, all of his friends also began to fight with all their might. Yuan and Yui raised her head and let loose a loud roar, following which her fourth soul ring suddenly lit up. Her body shrank slightly, but her arms became even more muscle-bound, and she swung her giant hammers through the air, sending the skeleton evil soul master flying into the distance. Devil Titan. Yuan and Yui sprang up into the air and unleashed a fierce barrage of attacks on the skeleton evil soul master with her giant hammers. Meanwhile, Yi Xingling had unleashed her sword star rain soul skill, and countless sword projections rained down upon the giant wolf evil soul master. At the same time, her fifth soul ring lit up. All of a sudden, her eyes became as bright and dazzling as stars, and she pointed her star god sword forward, immediately following which she abruptly vanished on the spot. The sky suddenly took an illusionary appearance for an instant, and right after that, a giant sword instantly descended from up above, hurtling directly toward the giant dwarf evil soul master. The evil soul master was struck by an overwhelming sense of impending doom, and his sixth soul ring immediately lit up, causing his body to swell even further in size. At the same time, his upper body lit up, and he threw back his head as he let loose a long howl. A wheel of light that resembled a bright moon emerged behind him, except this moon was as red as blood. Sixth soul skill, Blood Wolf howls to the moon. This was a soul skill that could unleash a powerful spiritual attack against the opponent while also stimulating the user's bloodline, allowing them to triple their defensive prowess for a short time. Unfortunately, his opponent was Yinglin, a woman who was obsessed with her sword and her pursuit of extreme destructive power. After combining as one with her sword, the spiritual attack from the Blood Wolf howls to the moon was completely ineffective against Yinglin, and the giant sword crashed down from above, sending the giant wolf evil soul master flying with a single devastating blow. A massive crack appeared directly down the middle of his suit of one-word battle armor, and a huge gruesome wound was inflicted on his body. The wound was so deep that his bones were clearly visible through the massive gash. He had only managed to survive that attack thanks to the defensive enhancements given to him by his Blood Wolf howls to the moon soul skill. Otherwise, his body would have been sliced cleanly in half. The holy light emanating from Yue Sengyu's body was suddenly withdrawn, but his entire body turned into a golden color, as did the wings on his back. The holy sword in his hand began to burn with holy flames, and an expression of intense concentration appeared on his face. His fifth soul ring lit up, and white patterns began to appear all over his suit of white battle armor. The small golden angel that had appeared during the Sea God Fate matchmaking convention emerged behind him, then abruptly fused into his body. Yue Sengyu shuddered, and another pair of wings appeared on his back. Except this pair of wings was illusionary and clearly insubstantial. However, with the addition of this pair of wings, his holy aura suddenly became several times more powerful. In that instant, the entire sky lit up as if a new sun had appeared in the night. A pillar of golden light fell from the sky, landing directly on Yue Sengyu. The glowing projections of a six-winged angel appeared up above. The holy sword in Yue Sengyu's hand was like a mirror that was reflecting the giant pillar of golden light descending from the sky toward the Dark Rider. The Dark Rider's steed let loose a ladne, and the black flames around its body swelled to encompass the rider as well. The Dark Rider then unleashed his sixth soul skill, and he abruptly chopped off his own head with his claymore. His head fell to his waist, but in that instant, the aura of darkness emanating from his body suddenly began to release terrifying energy fluctuations. He lashed out with his claymore, and it clashed with Yue Sengyu's fifth soul skill. Yue Sengyu's fifth soul skill was the Archangel's Fury. It drew upon the purest holy power to eradicate all evil. Meanwhile, the Dark Rider's sixth soul skill was Headless Horseman transformation, and it could enhance his combat prowess by several fold. Thus, the prolonged battle they'd been engaged in earlier almost instantly transformed into a struggle of life and death. Boom! Golden light exploded like fireworks in the air, but Yue Sengyu was debilitated by the clown evil soul master during the clash, and was sent flying by a dark purple sword projection. However, the Dark Rider wasn't faring much better, either. His skeletal steed had completely shattered into a pile of bones that was burning with golden flames. He had no choice but to transfer the power of the holy light unleashed by the Archangel's Fury to his steed, thereby resulting in its destruction. Even so, his body had also been infiltrated by holy light, and he had to circulate his soul power with all his might to oppose it. As such, the clash had resulted in a lose-lose situation. What stunned the evil soul masters the most weren't the three assault system battle soul master. Instead, it was Shu Shaoan. She raised her staff above her head and began to chant an incantation as her third soul ring lit up. Streaks of dazzling starlight then shot forth from her body, and almost at the exact same moment that Yinglin, Yuan and Yue Sengyu unleashed their attacks, those streaks of starlight surrounded every single evil soul master with unerring accuracy. Shu Shaoan had refrained from using her crowd control soul skill this entire time as she'd been waiting for this exact opportunity. The element of surprise was extremely important for control system soul masters. If she'd used the soul skill once already, her opponents would know what to expect, and the effect wouldn't be as potent. The streaks of starlight seemed to have eyes of their own as they were able to descend upon every single evil soul master in an instant. The teamwork between Shrek's 7 monsters was exemplary. In the instant that streaks of dazzling starlight had begun to erupt from Shu Shaoan's body, Yue Sengyu, Yuan and Yue, and Yinglin all quickly sped off to the side to make way for the streaks of starlight. Shu Shaoan's suit of one-word battle armor was deep blue in color, and there were specks of starlight shimmering on its surface, giving it the appearance of a starry night sky. The name of her one-word battle armor was Star. Only at this point in the battle did the main control system soul master of Shrek's 7 monsters truly begin to display her might. After the streaks of starlight struck the evil soul masters with unerring accuracy, all of them were immediately immobilized on the spot. Everyone else certainly wasn't going to allow such a splendid opportunity to go to waste. Shishi's 4 clones shot forth at once, and in the blink of an eye, 4 of the weaker evil soul masters had their throats slit. Yuan and Yue sprang forward, and her twin hammer struck the skeleton evil soul master's chest in a vicious blow like a pair of shooting stars. The sound of bones shattering was clearly audible in the night, and the skeleton evil soul master was sent flying like a giant cannonball. Yue Sengyu gritted his teeth and forced himself to ignore his physical discomfort as he pointed his holy sword forward. A beam of light of judgment instantly shot forth, striking the Dark Rider and covering his entire body in arcs of golden lightning. Yinglin had just unleashed her 5th soul skill, and at this moment, she pointed her star god sword forward as starlight erupted from her suit of battle armor. Immediately thereafter, her body flashed through the air over the giant wolf evil soul master's body as she unleashed her sword god star. Even though it was only her first soul skill, it was her fastest attack, and with the enhancements from her star god sword and battle armor, it was still an extremely devastating strike. All of a sudden, most of the evil soul masters had suffered severe wounds, and Shu Lizzie also took advantage of this opportunity to deliver his recovery pork buns to everyone, doing so with such accuracy that his friends only had to open their mouths before the buns appeared between their teeth. At the same time, Tang Wuling had also rushed over atop his tyrant dragon. The colossal tyrant dragon rumbled along like a force of nature while opening its mouth to blast a giant wave of flames out of its mouth. Tang Wuling's mind was directly connected to the tyrant dragon's soul spirit, and through this connection, he instructed it to direct its flames toward the evil soul masters that were posing a threat to Shishi before they were immobilized. The flames erupting from the tyrant dragon's mouth were true dragon flames. As the most powerful land dragon, the tyrant dragon's combat prowess wasn't actually inferior to that of true dragons. Instead, it was even more fearsome in some regards. Once a tyrant dragon evolved and grew wings, it would become a being that was close to the level of the 9 dragon kings. Chapter 795. Scorching dragon flames swept past, leaving only piles of ashes in their wake. The dragon flames of the dragon clan didn't draw upon the fire elements of the outside world. Instead, there were special flames that were nurtured within the bodies of the dragons, and their temperature surpassed even that of Bu Yue's blazing blue fireball. Furthermore, with the tyrant dragon's immense life force, its dragon flames were of an extremely high caliber. The dazzling starlight could only immobilize its targets for a second, but that was enough to completely turn the tide of the battle. Shu Shaoan didn't stop there, either. A golden ring of light appeared almost instantly beneath the skeleton evil soul master, who had just been sent flying. The evil soul master had only just recovered from his paralysis, and he was still reeling from the agony spearing through his entire body when he was bound by a series of star wheel shackles. When Yuan and Yue had struck the evil soul master, she'd made sure to send him flying directly toward Tang Wuling as she had seen that Tang Wuling had already taken care of his opponent and was rushing toward them. No one had any idea what this tyrant dragon was, but they had absolute confidence in Tang Wuling's powers. As such, right after the skeleton evil soul master's body was immobilized again, he was greeted by the sight of a colossal creature charging toward him. The tyrant dragon raised its tail and withdrew its front paws to its chest. After taking a preparatory step with its killer-like legs, it jumped up into the air. It was a rather comical sight to see such a colossal creature leaping into the air, but the skeleton evil soul master's eyes were filled with despair. The skeleton evil soul master was already quite massive, standing at 10 meters tall. However, the mountainous tyrant dragon was over 60 meters tall. The tyrant dragon may have only been 6 times taller than him, but it was more than 60 times heavier. The most terrifying thing about a tyrant dragon was its insanely powerful body, so the evil soul master's fate was sealed. Crack. A string of gruesome cracks erupted, and the skeleton evil soulmaster was dumped into a pile of shattered bones. Thus, Yuan and Yui was free to divert her attacks toward the Dark Rider, who was still struggling to deal with Yui's heinous light of judgment. It was undoubtedly the case that the tables had been completely turned. A hint of astonishment appeared on the face of the clown evil soulmaster. He had only managed to cast a curse of sluggishness onto the tyrant dragon's body after the skeleton evil soulmaster had been stomped to bits. Yet the tyrant dragon merely let loose a thunderous roar of fury and shrugged off his curse as a layer of dark golden light surfaced all over its body. This was the tyrant dragon's innate ability, Tyrant. The effects of all control-type soul skills were significantly weakened when used on a tyrant dragon. The clown evil soulmaster was a six-ring soul emperor, but the tyrant dragon was a life form of a far higher caliber than him. As such, his curse of sluggishness proved to be completely ineffective. He began to cast a series of curses while fleeing from the battle. It was quite clear that their loss was sealed. All of a sudden, he raised a hand, and a yellow ball of light erupted into the air. A sinister yellow skull projection immediately appeared up above. The tyrant dragon blasted forth another burst of dragon flames that encompassed a massive area, sealing off the clown evil soulmaster's path of escape while golden light flashed in the air. In the next instant, the stunned clown evil soulmaster was punctured by the streak of golden light and nailed to the ground. He'd been impaled by none other than Tang Wulin's golden dragon sphere. The summoning limit on the tyrant dragon also ran out at this moment, and it vanished into Tang Wulin's body as a streak of light. The nine-colored bracelet on Tang Wulin's wrist shimmered slightly, creating a very beautiful sight to behold in the night. Tang Wulin leapt forward and charged directly toward his golden dragon sphere. In the instant that his hand gripped around the spear shaft, the clown evil soulmaster shuddered, and his body quickly shriveled up into a dry corpse. Tang Wulin felt a burst of pure life force energy flow into his body through the golden dragon sphere. It wasn't a very potent burst of life force energy. At the very least, he had expected more from a six-ring soul emperor. However, it only took him a split second to understand why this was the case. This evil soulmaster's lackluster life force energy was most likely directly related to the evil abilities he cultivated. It was most likely the case that all evil soulmasters possessed weak life forces. However, the fact that the golden dragon sphere was able to kill him so quickly was still a testament to its powers. Tang Wulin looked up at the yellow skull firework in the sky with furrowed brows. Was that a retreat signal or a call for reinforcements? If it were the latter, then there was more trouble to come. The nearest city had to have already received news of this soul train's derailment, but no one knew how long it would take before personnel from the federal government arrived on the scene. The skull evil soulmaster and the clown evil soulmaster had fallen one after the other, and the rest of the evil soulmasters were also quickly taken care of. With Xu Shaoan's ultra-powerful control abilities, these evil soulmasters couldn't run away even if they wanted to. In the distance, Goldsong quickly rushed back toward Tang Wulin, having already slain all of the men in black who were slaughtering passengers on the train carriages. Goldsong didn't even look like a snake now. Its body had grown to over 7 meters long, and it was entirely of a shimmering golden color. There were two very pronounced bumps on its head, and a pair of claws had sprouted out of his abdomen. The sharp claws were digging into the ground to help it move at a faster speed. A gentle light would only appear in its glowing golden eyes when it appraised Tang Wulin, and it was always very cold and aloof toward everything else. This was Tang Wulin's first soul spirit, and it bestowed upon him the abilities of bind and blue silver impaling array. As such, it was also able to use those two soul skills. After being nurtured by the golden dragon king bloodline for so long, it was really beginning to resemble a dragon. Soul spirits were able to grow and evolve, but generally speaking, growth of soul spirits was fueled primarily by absorbing spirit power from the spirit ascension plane. However, Goldsong was clearly able to absorb more than spirit power, and most of its growth came from absorbing Tang Wulin's blood essence power. Every time a new golden dragon king seal was broken, it would undergo evolution, and all of the dragon souls that Tang Wulin had absorbed during his 3 years in the Dragon Valley had also benefited immensely. It was still far inferior in power compared to the tyrant dragon, but its evolution was still ongoing. At this rate, it would definitely be able to transform into a true dragon someday. Let's go save the victims first. We don't know if that's a signal calling for reinforcements, but our priority is to save as many people as we can. We can only hope that the Federation can deploy some people to this place as quickly as possible. Yinglin said with furrowed brows. Regardless of whether those evil soulmasters had reinforcement, they certainly couldn't just leave. There had to be countless injured passengers that were in need of treatment in those ruined train carriages, and even though no one had any healing skills, Shu Lizzie's recovery pork buns could at least help the injured passengers hold on until help arrived. Tang Wulin turned to Shu Lizzie and said, "Lizzie, give each of us one of your third, fourth, and fifth soul skills buns in case evil soulmaster reinforcements arrive." Yes. Shu Lizzie immediately agreed before chanting his incantations, conjuring up one steamed bun after another that was distributed to everyone. With the enhancement effect of his suit of battle armor, Shu Lizzie had the most abundant soul power among everyone present. As Shu Lizzie continued to create steamed buns, everyone quickly rushed over to the carriages in the distance. Tang Wulin's blue silver emperor martial soul proved to be extremely effective in the process of saving the passengers trapped in the carriages. Their thick and powerful vines could easily force open spaces that had caved in, and they could also act as stretchers that carefully carried injured individuals out of the carriages. Tang Wulin was able to exert exemplary control over these vines with his spirit abyss realm spiritual power, so he was able to save people extremely quickly and efficiently. Everyone else followed along behind him, administering emergency treatment to the injured people being carried out of the carriages by his blue silver emperor vines, following which Shu Lizzie would feed them one of his recovery pork buns to stabilize their conditions. Chapter 796. The first few carriages were beyond help as all of the passengers inside had already been killed by the evil soulmasters. Thankfully, they had dealt with all of the evil soulmasters quite quickly, so over a third of the passengers from the rest of the carriages managed to survive. There were many passengers with severe injuries, while those with more minor injuries also began to help with the rescue efforts after calming themselves down. Everything was progressing toward a positive direction. A middle-aged man who seemed to be a doctor rushed over to Tang Wulin. "Thank you for saving everyone. Do we have any news about how long it would take federal rescuers to get here? There are many passengers with severe injuries, and we can't afford to delay treatment for them. In particular, there are some who have ruptured organs, and with each second that passes, the chances of survival go down." Tang Wulin replied with furrowed brows. "I don't have a communicator, so I can't contact the nearby cities. I don't even know where we are right now." A hint of disappointment appeared in the middle-aged man's eyes. "Then we have no choice but to keep on waiting. The good thing is that there's a tracking system for all soul trains, so whenever accidents happen, notifications will be sent out immediately. This place just so happens to be situated right in between two cities, so the rescuers will most likely require some time to get here. All we can do is help as many people as we can and hope for the best. I'm going to rejoin the rescue efforts now. If you find any first aid kits or anything like that on the train, please bring them to me. They'll help me immensely." "All right, thank you for your hard work," Tang Wulin replied with a nod. Xu Shaoan squatted down and carefully bandaged the wound on an injured passenger's arm as she said in a gentle voice, "You'll be all right. A bone in your arm has been broken, but I've stabilized it for you. Don't move, and just lie down here for a while. Once the rescuers get here, they'll take you to the hospital." The person being treated by her was an old man, and even though his face was slightly pale from the agony he was experiencing, his expression remained quite calm. "Thank you, little girl. You're like an angel. Thank you for defeating those cruel evildoers. Can you tell me where you come from?" Xu Shaoan replied with a smile. "We're students of Shrek Academy." The old man faltered slightly upon hearing this. "Shrek Academy, eh? No wonder you're also kind and competent." Xu Shaoan consoled. "Everything's all right now. You just lie down here. I'm going to help some other people." She gave the old man a gentle smile as she spoke before standing up and rushing over to another injured passenger. The old man looked on with approval in his eyes and sighed. "What a good kind-hearted girl. Shrek Academy really does live up to its reputation as the #1 academy on the entire continent. Not only are these students also powerful, they also have brilliant courage and moral compass." Right at this moment, the old man's pupils suddenly contracted drastically as he yelled, "Look out, girl!" A blackish-purple shadow had appeared silently behind Xu Shaoan and was thrusting a weapon toward the back of her chest like lightning. The assailant had appeared far too abruptly, and no one had managed to react in time. However, the old man's cry of warning proved to be instrumental in saving Xu Shaoan's life. Xu Shaoan had a vast wealth of practical battle experience, and as soon as she heard the old man's voice, she immediately dove forward. Furthermore, she had been wearing her suit of battle armor this entire time without withdrawing it in case more enemies showed up. Blackish purple light flashed through the air, virtually skimming over her back. Xu Shaoan let loose a muffled groan as she was sent flying by the attack, then crashed into a nearby train carriage before bouncing off it. Specks of starlight emerged on her suit of battle armor to buffer the force of the impact. However, the enemy's attack was extremely powerful, and a huge gash had been torn open on the back of her suit of battle armor. Thankfully, the battle armor had withstood most of the power of the attack, and Xu Shaoan was only struck by a bone-chilling sensation, upon which she immediately began to circulate her soul power. The rest of Shrek's 7 monsters immediately reacted to this sudden development. Xiaoan. Yue's Hangyu roared as he flapped his wings with all his might. His second soul ring lit up, and he released his holy sword, positioning himself in front of Xu Shaoan in a flash. The blackish-purple light gradually manifested into a figure in the darkness. This was a middle-aged man with an extremely pale face and a pair of dark purple eyes. He appraised Yue's Hangyu with a cold expression, and said, "Did you kill all of my men? All of you must pay with your lives." The man wasn't wearing any battle armor, but there was an extremely sinister aura emanating from his body. Yue's Hangyu didn't care who this man was. In the instant that Xu Shaoan was sent flying by this man's attack, he felt as if his heart were about to jump out of his throat. Golden light erupted from his eyes as he spread his wings open, and his fourth soul ring immediately lit up, causing his aura to become several times more powerful. This was his fourth soul skill, Holy Angel Descends. He stepped forward in midair, and his holy sword slashed toward the middle-aged man like lightning. A layer of blackish-purple light began to radiate around the middle-aged man, and 8 soul rings appeared around his body without any premonition. The soul rings consisted of 3 purples and 5 blacks. In the face of Yue's Hangyu's holy sword attack, he didn't even bother to take any evasive measures. The holy sword was shimmering with scorching holy light, yet in the instant that it came into contact with the blackish-purple light, Yue's Hangyu was struck by the feeling that his sword had sunk into a viscous swamp and couldn't progress even an inch further. What was even more alarming to him was that the section of the holy sword that had pierced into the light was instantly corroded by its blackish-purple color. The holy light on the blade was quickly being devoured and melting away. Yue's Hangyu was quite stunned to see this. The middle-aged man spat in a cold voice, "I absolutely abhor this holy aura." He swept a hand toward Yue's Hangyu as he spoke, and a streak of blackish-purple light swept forth, heading directly toward Yue's Hangyu. At a time like this, the experience of Shrek's 7 monsters really came to the fore. In the face of the middle-aged man's attack, Yue's Hangyu didn't panic in the slightest. He immediately unleashed his ghost shadow perplexing track to retreat like lightning, and he instantly released his holy sword without any hesitation in an extremely decisive manner. At the same time, dazzling holy light shone down onto his body. His quick reactions allowed him to evade most of the blackish-purple light, but he was still struck by a glancing blow. The holy light and the protective light barrier released by his battle armor managed to just barely keep the attack at bay, but Yue's Hangyu could still feel a blackish-purple color spreading all over his entire body. This light can even corrode soul power. An enormous force suddenly erupted, and his body was wrenched to the side. Immediately thereafter, a large hand appeared behind him and plucked him down from up above. At the same time, a pair of giant hammers crashed down directly toward the middle-aged man's head from behind. A hint of disdain appeared on the middle-aged man's face, and he suddenly raised his hands up above his head. His third soul ring then lit up as purple light erupted from his eyes. A powerful ball of purple light abruptly erupted from within his body, radiating outward like the explosion of a bomb. Tang Wuling had just grabbed onto Yue's Hangyu, and he was immediately struck by a sense of foreboding at the sight of the ball of purple light. Yuan and Yui's twin hammer struck the purple light, and even with her immense strength, she was still instantly sent flying. She was also forced to reveal himself from the shadows before instantly rushing back in retreat. The sword projection unleashed by Yi Xinglan had also been repelled, and what was even more terrifying was that everything this purple light came into contact with would be quickly stained purple. Even if they were to circulate their soul power with all their might, they were still unable to rid themselves of that purple color. The purple light was filled with a cold, sinister aura and possessed terrifying corrosive properties. Even the sections of Yuan and Yui's massive hammers that had struck the purple light had already been melted away, and injecting her soul power into the hammers could only slow down the rate at which the hammers were being corroded. Yue's Hangyu rushed back towards Xu Shaoan and encircled his arms around her before flapping his wings and rapidly flying away. Tang Wuling made no effort to retreat. He was the caller and the leader of Shrek's 7 monsters, so he had to buy time for his friends. Furthermore, there were still many injured passengers on the ground, and he certainly couldn't just abandon them. A loud dragon's roar rang out from his body, and brilliant golden light erupted from his battle armor as he brandished his golden dragon spear, thrusting it directly toward the expanding barrier of purple light. A brown halo also erupted from his torso once again, exerting immense gravitational force. At the same time, a series of blue-silver emperor vines emerged from the ground, wrapping themselves around the injured passengers before hurling them toward another direction. He didn't have time to delicately transfer them away one by one in this dire situation. In the distance, Shu Lizzie used his controlling crane capturing dragon to catch all of the injured passengers that were tossed over by Tang Wuling. Meanwhile, Tang Wuling's golden dragon spear pierced into the purple light, and he was also struck by the feeling that his weapon had sunk into a swamp. The purple light spread along the golden dragon spear, trying to corrode it just as it had done with everything else. Right at this moment, rhomboid golden dragon scale patterns suddenly appeared over the section of the golden dragon spear enshrouded within the purple light. Immediately thereafter, a loud dragon's roar rang out amid a flash of dazzling golden light, and the spear was able to forcibly free itself from the purple light. Right after that, a golden dragon head appeared at the tip of the spear, unleashing the golden dragon shocks the heavens directly toward the middle-aged man's chest. On top of that, Tang Wuling also unleashed his golden dragon roar. Chapter 797. Powerful sound waves intermingled with spiritual power erupted alongside the might of the golden dragon king. The middle-aged man faltered slightly, and the purple light barrier radiating from his body immediately slowed in its expansion. A purple shield of light appeared in front of his chest, and the shield resembled the shell of a blackish-purple tortoise. The man was using the shell of the tortoise to withstand the golden dragon shocks the heavens. Is that his soul spirit? Tang Wuling's heart jolted with alarm upon seeing this, immediately following which a burst of enormous power crashed into his body. However, Tang Wuling's strength was certainly nothing to be scoffed at, and even though his cultivation rank was far inferior to that of his opponent, he still managed to hold his own. He immediately unleashed his golden dragon tyrant body, and all of his scales, as well as his suit of battle armor, took on a mirror-like appearance. The fact that his golden dragon spear had been able to resist the corrosive effect of the purple light had significantly bolstered his confidence. He was going to use his strength, battle armor, and soul skills to withstand his opponent's attack. In doing so, he finally bought his blue-silver emperor vines enough time to hurl all of the nearby injured passengers away, and also afforded his friends enough time to retreat. However, in the next instant, the vast disparity between their powers was finally displayed. Tang Wuling felt his chest tighten, and he was sent flying like a cannonball. His golden dragon king blood essence power was quickly being weakened, and he was stunned to discover that even though the purple light couldn't corrupt his golden dragon spear, he had to use his blood essence power to prevent it from corroding his body. Just from that exchange alone, Tang Wuling felt as if his blood essence power had been severely dented. The middle-aged man appraised Tang Wuling with a cold expression. Interesting. He extended his right hand, and a purple tortoise landed on his palm. The tortoise was only around a foot in diameter, and it was entirely blackish-purple in color, but it had a pair of glowing white eyes that were filled with a sinister aura. That's an infernal tortoise. She exclaimed. Infernal tortoises were an extremely rare type of soul beast, and they dwelled only in the darkest and most unwelcoming places, absorbing in chi for sustenance and survival. Infernal tortoises grew extremely slowly, and a newborn infernal tortoise was less than an inch in size. They would only grow an inch every 1,000 years, which meant that the infernal tortoise that the middle-aged man was holding was over 10,000 years old. The most powerful trait about an infernal tortoise was its ability to refine extreme yin chi. If it could encounter a soul master with a martial soul that it had great synergy with, it could enhance the martial soul to such a great extent that the martial soul could immediately undergo evolution. Even 1,000-year-old infernal tortoises were exceedingly rare, let alone this 10,000-year-old one. The fact that this evil soul master could possess a myriad-year infernal tortoise as his soul spirit was a strong testament to his immense powers. He was an 8-ring soul Douluo that Tang Wuling and the others were struggling to oppose, even though he hadn't even donned his suit of battle armor. There was only one of him, but he posed a greater threat than all of the previous evil soul masters combined. Yue's Hangyu held Xu Shaoan in his arms and accessed the gash on her suit of battle armor with an urgent expression. Thankfully, the battle armor had buffered most of the power from that attack, but there was a patch of dark purple that was slowly spreading over the skin on her back, and she was only able to restrict the expansion of the corrupted area as she circulated her soul power with all her might right with her eyes tightly shut. Yin Qi has entered her body. It is to be removed right away. Otherwise, she'll be in a lot of trouble once the Yin Qi enters her main meridians. Yue Hengyu said in an urgent manner. Tang Wuling rushed over to Xu Xiaowen in a flash and gently pressed his right golden dragon claw directly over her wound. Powerful golden dragon king bloodline aura surged forth, entering Xu Xiaowen's skin and quickly eradicating the purple Yin Qi. The bloodline of the golden dragon king was of an extremely pure yang attribute. Regardless of how powerful infernal tortoises were, there was no way its bloodline could even begin to compare with that of the golden dragon king. It was just that the evil soul master's overwhelming cultivation rank advantage made him very difficult to deal with, even for Tang Wuling. If they were both of the same cultivation rank, Tang Wuling would naturally be able to crush him with ease. Xu Xiaowen opened her eyes and immediately shuddered. I'm so cold. Yue Hengyu hurriedly tightened his arms around her body. Are you feeling better now? I'm fine now. Xu Xiaowen nodded in response. At this moment, all of the members of Shrek's 7 monsters had gathered at the same spot, with the exception of Shu Lizzie. Tang Wuling had already stuffed 2 steamed buns into his mouth. They were Shu Lizzie's 3rd soul skill, bloodthirsty red bean bun, and his 4th soul skill, puncture barbecue pork bun. Yuan and Yui and Yingling had also done the same thing, and the 3 of them stood at the front of the group as they cast their eyes toward their opponent. Around 10% of Yuan and Yui's giant hammers were corroded away before the Yin Qi finally dissipated, thereby further highlighting just how potent this Yin Qi was. The evil soul master appraised them with an intrigued expression. No wonder you managed to kill my men. You're not average soul kings, that's for sure. However, do you think you're powerful enough to stop me? All of a sudden, he raised an eyebrow and murmured to himself, those bastards are pretty quick. In that case, I'll have to end this as quickly as possible. Dazzling purple light abruptly erupted from his eyes as he spoke, and immediately thereafter, a layer of purple light erupted from his body, transforming into a massive ghostly projection. His aura immediately spiked sharply as a result, and pieces of blackish purple armor began to appear all over his body. The suit of armor was filled with a dark and sinister aura, and what was rather peculiar was that there was a cylindrical slot situated at the front of the breastplate. The middle-aged man placed the infernal tortoise into the slot, and the color of the entire infernal tortoise suddenly turned darker, making it appear as if it had become one with the suit of battle armor. A pair of giant wings then unfurled on the man's back. This was the signature trait of a suit of 2-word battle armor. However, it was quite clear that this man wasn't wearing a suit of 2-word battle armor. A series of demonic patterns began to appear over the suit of armor, and a blackish purple ring of light that was around 3 meters in diameter also appeared beneath his feet. Thorns began to emerge around the ring of light, while complex demonic patterns emerged within the ring of light, forming a wraith-like diagram at the very center. This was a martial soul projection within a domain halo, indicating that he was wearing a suit of 3-word battle armor. Just as wings were the defining trait of a suit of 2-word battle armor, domain halos were the defining traits of suits of 3-word battle armor. Suits of 3-word battle armor came with their own domains, and those domains were definitely extremely synergistic with the battle armor masters. Within these domains, soul masters would become at least twice as powerful as they normally were. This was an 8-ring soul Douluo in a suit of 3-word battle armor. In this state, he was powerful enough to oppose a hyper Douluo who hadn't put on their suit of battle armor. Extremely grim expressions appeared on the faces of all of Shrek's 7 monsters upon seeing this. The terrifying aura erupting from the suit of 3-word battle armor struck everyone with a sense of asphyxiation. Even though the bloodthirsty red bean buns were already beginning to take effect, there was still far too much of a power gap between them. Tang Wuling bit down on the tip of his tongue before stepping forward with a grave expression. Yuanan, adopt your fallen angel form. Xiaoan, unleash your astral chain. In the face of such a mighty being comparable in power to a hyper Douluo, escape was clearly not an option. However, from the words of the evil soul master earlier, it was quite clear that reinforcements weren't far away. This was their only option. They had to last until the reinforcements arrived if they wanted to survive. Tang Wuling brandished his golden dragon spear, and 4 golden soul rings appeared around his body. He was unable to summon his tyrant dragon anymore. Otherwise, he'd definitely be able to last longer against this opponent. Even so, he was the captain of the team, and he had to stand at the very forefront of the group to protect his friends. Xu Xiaowen had expended a lot of energy to oppose the Yin Qi that Tang Wuling had just expelled from her body, but she still had no issues unleashing soul skills. She also quickly ate her bloodthirsty red bean bun while unleashing her 4th soul skill at the same time. A series of illusionary starlight chains instantly connected everyone, essentially fusing them as a single being. Astral chains, life sharing. Through the use of this ability, the damage sustained from every attack would be distributed among everyone. Even Shu Lizzie had an astral chain connected to his body. They could all sense each other's heartbeats and bodily conditions, forming a spiritual connection between everyone. Yue Hengyu reflexively held onto Xu Xiaowen's hand, and Xu Xiaowen tried to tug her hand free, but Yue Hengyu refused to let go. Just then, he had thought that he was going to lose Xu Xiaowen forever, but thankfully, she had managed to survive. Even so, he was unwilling to let go of her ever again. Killing all of you will be no different from stomping ants. The evil soul master said in a cold voice. He flapped his wings and made a grabbing motion with his right hand, upon which a massive blackish purple hand immediately made a grab straight for Tang Wuling's head. At the same time, the domain halo from his battle armor instantly expanded to encompass Shrek's 7 monsters within it. Tang Wuling's heart sank slightly upon seeing this. The evil soul master hadn't underestimated them even with their vast cultivation rank disparities. Instead, he had unleashed his domain halo, and was clearly trying to kill them in the shortest amount of time possible. He couldn't allow this domain to encompass everyone. Otherwise, they would be like sitting ducks that could only resign themselves to death. The 4th golden ring around Tang Wuling's body suddenly lit up, and a golden halo appeared beneath his feet, expanding to around 5 meters in diameter, encompassing all of Shrek's 7 monsters within it. At this moment, Shu Lizzie had also joined them. Chapter 798. Within the golden light, there seemed to be a giant dragon coiling around everyone, and all of Shrek's 7 monsters could feel a burst of immense blood essence power instantly surge into their bodies. A loud dragon's roar rang out, and Tang Wuling's body also swelled dramatically to over 3 meters in height. At the same time, the blood essence fluctuations emanating from his body also spiked drastically, and his eyes had taken on a crimson golden color as opposed to their original golden hue. His aura was elevating in a frenzy, and he had unleashed his 4th bloodline soul skill, Violent Golden Dragon Domain. This was an ability that he'd attained after he'd broken his 8th Golden Dragon King seal, but he'd never used it outside of the Dragon Valley. His Violent Golden Dragon Domain could make his Golden Dragon King bloodline enter a berserk state, and at the same time, all of his allies within the domain will be enhanced by his Golden Dragon King bloodline, thereby increasing their offensive and defensive abilities by a third. In this state, Tang Wuling's strength, as well as defensive and offensive capabilities would all be increased by 2-fold. As his body reached 3 meters in height, the scales all over his skin also became thicker and heavier. The dragon scales patterns on the surface of his battle armor had also all transformed into robust dragon scales, making it appear as if the dragon scales from his body had encapsulated his suit of battle armor. His aura also began to quickly elevate, and in that instant, Tang Wuling was like a ferocious beast that had just awakened from a long slumber. His golden dragon spear was also enhanced by his immense bloodline power, and dazzling golden light erupted from it as it also expanded in size to the same scale as his body. His 3rd bloodline soul ring lit up, and a loud dragon's roar rang out. Powerful blood essence fluctuations erupted from his body, slowing down the spread of the evil soul master's battle armor domain halo. In the next instant, Tang Wuling had shot forth as a streak of golden light. Golden dragon takes flight. His golden dragon spear was pointed directly ahead of him, and he was propelling himself without any hesitation toward the enemy's domain. At a time like this, he couldn't afford to cower or hesitate even for a split second. If the 7 of them were to fall under the scope of their opponent's battle armor domain halo, then they would be completely at his mercy. A frosty aura of extreme yin surged toward Tang Wuling, and even though he didn't know what his opponent's martial soul was, it was quite clear that this man was most likely a very formidable figure in the world of evil soul masters, given how pure his yin qi was. However, at this moment, he was like a scorching sun flashing through the air, except his blood essence was burning around his body as opposed to actual flames. The powerful golden dragon king blood essence pierced through the oncoming yin qi, while his golden dragon spear shot forth directly toward his opponent's chest. A hint of surprise appeared on the evil soul master's face. He had obviously already ascertained that Tang Wuling was only a 5-ring soul king. It was completely unprecedented for a 5-ring 1-word battle armor master to be able to eradicate his extreme yin qi and even strike him with a slight sense of peril. However, the evil soul master certainly wasn't going to panic because of this. He merely looked on with a cold smile on his face as Tang Wuling rushed into the giant blackish purple hand he just handed up. However, in the next instant, his smile immediately stiffened on his face as he discovered that a small golden vortex had appeared within the huge blackish purple hand. The golden vortex then rapidly expanded and completely shredded the giant hand. Golden light flashed, and immediately reached the front of his chest. The evil soul master reacted extremely quickly as his right hand shot forth like lightning to strike the side of the golden dragon sphere. In the instant that his palm made contact with the golden dragon sphere, his entire body abruptly shuddered. This had nothing to do with cultivation ranks. It was simply bloodline intimidation. As Tang Wulin's soul power increased, his golden dragon king blood essence aura would also become more powerful. That allowed him to better fuse with his own blood essence, thereby further bolstering the aura of the Golden Dragon King. As the leader of Shrek's 7 monsters, Tang Wulin was certainly no slouch. Furthermore, as his Golden Dragon King bloodline became more powerful, his battle style also became more and more aggressive. The extreme yang aura of his Golden Dragon King bloodline was able to restrict his opponent's extreme yin chi to a significant extent, and with the enhancements brought to them by his violent Golden Dragon domain, the other members of Shrek's 7 monsters were still struck by a bone-chilling sensation, but they weren't corrupted right away. If they had been standing within this 3-word battle armor master's domain halo without the enhancements of the violent Golden Dragon domain, they'd be quickly reduced to puddles of blood by the corrosive extreme yin chi. A series of star wheel shackles began to emerge soundlessly from beneath the evil soul master's feet, and in that instant, the absolute nature of Xu Xiaoyan's control soul skills shone through to brilliant effect. The evil soul master's raised right hand abruptly froze in midair, and it had to be said that Xu Xiaoyan was undoubtedly a master of timing. Tang Wulin's golden dragon spear virtually skimmed over the evil soul master's fingertips, and the star wheel shackles appeared virtually at the exact same moment as the evil soul master was struck by his blood essence intimidation. In the next instant, the golden dragon spear struck the infernal tortoise on his chest with devastating force. Blackish purple light immediately erupted from the suit of 3-word battle armor as it activated its protective barrier. This was the most normal reaction displayed by a suit of battle armor in response to oncoming attacks. However, the barrier activated by a suit of 3-word battle armor was obviously far more powerful than that of a suit of 1-word battle armor. A burst of extreme yin chi instantly sent Tang Wulin flying, but a small hole that was shimmering with faint silver light had been stabbed into the infernal tortoise's back. Tang Wulin could clearly sense a refreshing burst of energy flowing into his body from the golden dragon spear. That was the life force energy of the infernal tortoise. The golden dragon spear's insane destructive power had played a crucial role here. The eruption of power from the protective barrier wasn't enough to immediately repel the golden dragon spear, and thus, it was able to leave a slight wound on the infernal tortoise's body. Even though it was only a soul spirit of that caliber had to have already become a power of the soul master's being. Tang Wulin was well aware of the fact that at his current cultivation rank, there was no way that he would be able to unleash the full power of the golden dragon spear. As such, he didn't target any of the evil soul master's vital regions, as all of those regions were encapsulated within his 3-word battle armor, and Tang Wulin wasn't confident in his ability to pierce through that armor. However, that infernal tortoise seemed to be the core of the evil soul master's soul power, and its defensive prowess shouldn't be as powerful as that of the suit of battle armor, so he decided to target it. How dare you! The evil soul master's infuriated voice rang out, and Tang Wulin didn't even see what had happened before his body was struck by a burst of glacial energy, causing him to abruptly accelerate as he flew back toward his friends. At this moment, the effect of the astral chains immediately shone through. Light shimmered from the suits of battle armor of all of Shrek's 7 monsters, and they withstood the force of that attack together. All 7 of them let loose muffled groans in unison, but they were still able to withstand that attack in the end. Yuan and Yui and Yui's Heng Yu caught Tang Wulin's body together to arrest his momentum. Right at this moment, the evil soul master's frosty voice rang out again. Extreme yin domain. Tang Wulin and his friends were instantly struck by the sensation that everything around them seemed to have become more viscous. At the same time, his violent golden dragon domain was enshrouded beneath a fierce and turbulent sea of extreme yin chi. A burst of purple light suddenly erupted from the ground before enveloping Xu Xiaoyan within it. This was an extreme yin chi that was 10 times as potent as the yin chi from the evil soul master's battle armor domain halo. Furthermore, in the instant that it appeared, it severed the astral chains extending from her body. This was the first time that everyone had encountered such a scenario. Astral chains was a star-type soul skill, and the chains were extremely resolute, but it was quite clear from this sudden turn of events that these chains weren't indestructible. Chapter 799. It was quite clear that the evil soul master had pinpointed Xu Xiaoyan's absolute control as the biggest threat to him, as opposed to Tang Wulin's immense power. If it hadn't been for her control, how would Tang Wulin have managed to hurt his infernal tortoise? As such, he unleashed his 6th soul skill, and his aim was to eliminate Xu Xiaoyan as quickly as possible. The extreme yin domain was like a coffin that had completely trapped Xu Xiaoyan within, and the aura of the golden dragon king from the violent golden dragon domain was quickly fading from her body. In just a few more seconds, her defenses would completely crumble. After that, her body and her battle armor would both be corroded into nothingness within the extreme yin domain. Xiaoyan. Yui's Heng Yu cried out as he abruptly flapped his wings and charged into the extreme yin domain without any hesitation. The extreme yin domain had extremely powerful offensive abilities, and was also an extremely effective control type soul skill, which was why the evil soul master had chosen it as his 6th soul skill. However, it had one limitation, which was that it could only encompass a very small area, so it could only attack one person at a time. Despite this, it was his most powerful individual attack, and this was the first time he'd ever seen anyone dare to charge into his extreme yin domain like a moth to a flame. A burst of white holy flames erupted from Yui's Heng Yu's body almost at the exact same moment, and his wings had been set alight by those holy flames. The pristine white flames appeared to be very gentle and warm, striking the beholder with a comfortable sensation. Yui's Heng Yu charged into the extreme yin domain, and his flaming wings wrapped themselves around Xu Xiaoyan to form a protective barrier. A remarkable scene then unfolded. Despite how powerful the extreme yin domain was, it was unable to corrode those flaming wings, and was completely kept at bay. Sacrifice. You're from the Holy Angel clan. The evil soul master harumphed coldly, but a hint of wariness had crept into his voice. Sacrifice? The other members of Shrek's 7 monsters all faltered upon hearing this. Right at this moment, a sharp cry suddenly erupted in the distance, and the evil soul master's expression changed slightly as a hesitant look appeared on his face. After taking one final cold glance at Tang Wulin and the others, he abruptly vanished on the spot. Just as Tang Wulin and the others were preparing themselves to protect Xu Xiaoyan and Yui's Heng Yu with all their might, the evil soul master disappeared. Sacrifice? A surprised voice sounded from up above. Immediately thereafter, the space overhead was torn open, and a silvery white figure descended from above. A pair of silvery white wings were spread open as his body slowly descended, and a silver halo appeared beneath his feet. This was another 3-word battle armor master. However, the aura of light emanating from his body clearly indicated that he was definitely no evil soul master. There was a helmet and a visor on his head that completely obscured his appearance, and silver light flashed from his body, following which a small silver hammer flew forth before appearing in the air above the extreme yin domain. Streaks of dazzling silver light erupted, forming a string of mirror-like structures, and the extreme yin domain vanished in a flash. The gentle white flames receded, yet Yui's Heng Yu still refused to let go of Xu Xiaoyan. Xiaoyan, I'm sorry, Yui's Heng Yu whispered into her ear before slumping limply against her body. Tang Wulin withdrew his violent golden dragon domain before extending a respectful bow toward the 3-word battle armor master. Thank you for saving us. May I ask your name? The 3-word battle armor master had silver light flashing all over his body as if his entire suit of battle armor were constructed from silver mirrors. The suit of battle armor then vanished into his body to reveal his true appearance. This was a handsome middle-aged man who appeared to be in his 30s, and his head of short blue hair gave him a very energetic appearance. His eyes were bright and piercing, and what was quite remarkable was that his pupils were silver. I am a backup battle god from the Federation's Battle God Hall. My name is Luo Shoufeng. All of you have done very well to hold off Sunfang for such a long time, Luo Shoufeng said with a hint of surprise on his face as he appraised the group of young 1-word battle armor masters before him. Tang Wulin wore an urgent expression as he carefully took Yui's Heng Yu from Xu Xiaoyan, and said, Senior, would you be able to examine our friend? Luo Shoufeng waved a hand in response. He's fine. The sacrifice of the Holy Angel clan won't harm the user as long as the sacrificial flames aren't completely snuffed out. Xu Xiaoyan was still rather slack-jawed, as if she had yet to recover from her ordeal. When the extreme yin domain had fallen upon her and severed all of her astral chains, her first thought was that it was over for her. In that instant, she felt an extremely frosty aura surging toward her from all sides, completely immobilizing her and rendering her unable to use even a single shred of her soul power. She could only look on as the extreme Yin Chi rapidly stripped away the bloodline essence that the Tang Wulin's violent golden dragon domain had bestowed upon her. However, at the height of her despair, a white figure suddenly appeared in her field of view, following which she was swept up into a warm embrace. He held onto her with all his might, and his pounding heartbeat was clearly audible even to her. He whispered an apology to her as he wrapped his wings around her body to keep the frosty aura at bay, and in that moment, Xu Xiaoan felt as if her heartstrings had been violently tugged on. She wanted to struggle out of his arms, as she didn't want him to withstand what was clearly a lethal attack for her. However, his embrace was simply too strong, to the extent that she was unable to extricate herself from his arms. He had entered the extreme Yin domain, so he had also been completely immobilized. Thus, the two of them were trapped in a lethal world that could take their lives at any moment. When Yue Sengyu slumped over against her, she saw a smile on his face that was filled with warmth and relief. His apology was no longer a prideful one. Instead, it was completely genuine and heartfelt. Tears streamed down Xu Xiaoan's face uncontrollably as she asked in a trembled voice, "Senior, will he be okay?" Why is that ability called sacrifice? Luo Shaofeng raised an eyebrow as he explained. Aren't you guys friends? Hasn't he told you about the sacrifice ability of the Holy Angel Clan? Sacrifice is an important reason behind the Holy Angel Clan's current status as one of the top families of the current world of Soul Masters. It's an innate ability that allows them to summon sacrificial flames at the expense of their life force energy, and those flames can ward off all negative effects, as well as enhance one's holy powers by threefold. For a member of the Holy Angel Clan with a pure bloodline, this innate ability can enhance their overall combat prowess by more than twofold for a short time. Of course, just as the name suggests, sacrifice cannot be unleashed without cost. Every time the ability is used, one's life force must be ignited, and 10 years worth of life force will be burned away. 10 years worth of life force? To put it in simpler terms, the ability required the sacrifice of 10 years of one's lifespan. Yuan and Yue had always been rather displeased with Yue Sengyu for his treatment of Xu Xiaoan, but she was forced to look at him through new eyes. This applied to everyone else as well, and Xu Xiaoan was already sobbing uncontrollably. Luo Shaofeng wore an expression of approval on his face as he said, "It's the greatest pride of the Holy Angel Clan to be able to sacrifice themselves to protect others. This kid has certainly done his clan proud." Regardless of how proud Holy Angels are, they still abide firmly by their beliefs. Tang Wuling felt as if there were a lump in his throat, and his eyes slowly glazed over. In the face of truly powerful beings, they were still pitifully weak. Were they really worthy of the title of Shrek's 7 monsters? If it hadn't been for Yue Sengyu's sacrifice, Xu Xiaoan would most likely already be dead, and as the team captain, Tang Wuling would most definitely hold himself accountable. Yuan and Yue made her way toward Xu Xiaoan before enveloping her in a gentle hug. Tang Wuling took a deep breath. "Xiaoan, you stay here with Sengyu. Everyone else, let's keep helping the injured passengers." At this moment, bright lights appeared in the distance as one mecha after another descended from the sky. These mechas were not all designed for battle. There were also ambulance mechas as well. As soon as they landed on the ground, these ambulance mechas transformed into makeshift emergency treatment platforms, and a large number of doctors and nurses rushed out to tend to the injured passengers. As for the self-proclaimed backup battle god and three-word battle armor master, Luo Shaofeng, he didn't participate in the rescue efforts. Instead, he hovered high up in the air, appraising the surrounding area in an alert manner in case more enemies were to appear. Seeing as professional rescue personnel had arrived on the scene, Tang Wuling was made largely redundant, and he quickly made his way over to below Luo Shaofeng before looking up at him as he asked, "Senior, who is this Unfang that you were referring to earlier?" Luo Shaofeng glanced at him and said, "If I'm not mistaken, you're all from Shrek Academy's inner court, right?" Tang Wuling faltered slightly before immediately nodding in response. Chapter 800. A benevolent smile appeared on Luo Shaofeng's face upon hearing this. "In that case, you're all my junior disciple brothers and junior disciple sisters. I also used to be an inner court disciple of Shrek Academy. The man you just fought is Zunfang, an evil soul master known as the Infernal Ghostly Swine. He is a high-ranking member of the Holy Spirit cult, and his Yin Chi is extremely troublesome to deal with. I've been pursuing him for a long time, and I immediately rushed over here after sensing his aura." "What's the Holy Spirit cult?" Tang Wuling asked in a confused manner. Luo Shaofeng replied in a grim voice, "It's a mysterious cult that has been around for countless years. To put it more accurately, it's more like a heinous and sinful sect. All of its members are evil soul masters, and they take it upon themselves to develop more evil soul masters. They're always searching for special types of energy through slaughter and destruction to enhance themselves. And around 10,000 years ago, the Holy Spirit cult brought about a catastrophic disaster that almost destroyed the entire human race. Thankfully, Spirit High Douluo Hua Yua was able to crush them with the assistance of the powerful beings of that generation, and he seemingly disappeared off the face of the world after that. However, even after 10,000 years, the Holy Spirit cult is still around. Fortunately, they don't seem to have been able to accumulate as much power as they had during their heyday. Even so, they've been frequently committing crimes of terrorism during the past few years, and everywhere they go, slaughter is sure to follow. It's really lucky that you guys were around today. Otherwise, all of the passengers on this train would be killed, and even their souls would be extracted by evil soul masters for them to cultivate their evil techniques." Tang Wuling looked on at Luo Shaofeng with a surprised expression. There was a sect comprised entirely of evil soul masters. This was the first time he'd ever heard of such a thing, but it wasn't actually the first time he'd come across such an organization. It was undoubtedly the case that the evil soul master who had almost killed Mo Lao on that train was also a member of the Holy Spirit cult. Luo Shaofeng continued in a grim voice, "The Holy Spirit cult members are extremely cunning and willing to stoop to anything to achieve their objectives. After the heavy blow they were dealt 10,000 years ago, they've learned to become extremely secretive and discreet. If you encounter evil soul masters in the future, try not to engage them in battle. The Federation is expending a lot of effort to find them, and we've already waged a few battles against them. The evil soul masters have kept a low profile during recent times, but it appears these bastards are back to their old ways again." Tang Wuling asked, "Is there really no way to find them? And just how powerful is this Holy Spirit cult?" Luo Shaofeng shook his head with a dark expression. "No one knows just how powerful the Holy Spirit cult is, but what you have to realize is that they've managed to survive even with the Federation's Battle God Hall, the Spirit Pagoda, and Shrek Academy all making concerted efforts to hunt them down." Tang Wuling's heart jolted upon hearing this. Luo Shaofeng continued, "Those evil soul masters are all completely deranged, and nothing is beneath them. If it weren't for the fact that they still can't directly oppose us, they would have come out of hiding long ago." Tang Wuling asked, "What is the Battle God Hall?" "This is the first time I've heard of it." Perhaps it was because they were both from the same academy, but Luo Shaofeng wasn't irked by Tang Wuling's string of questions. Instead, he patiently explained, "To put it simply, the Battle God Hall is an organization of elite beings created by the Federation. All members of the Battle God Hall receive resources from the Federation with which they can continue to better themselves, but when the Federation is in danger, all members of the Battle God Hall must follow the Federation's orders. Of course, during most times, we have a high degree of freedom, and we all belong to the military, so we have military titles. Speaking of which, you're all one-word battle armor masters already. Once you become two-word battle armor masters and graduate from the inner court, the Battle God Hall would be more than happy to offer all of you a place among our ranks." Tang Wuling asked, "Are there many alumni from our academy at the Battle God Hall, Senior?" Luo Shaofeng smiled, and replied, "I can't tell you the specifics, but what I can tell you is that a major factor behind the support and respect our academy receives from the Federation is its neutral stance. However, those who graduate from the academy have to go somewhere, especially as inner court disciples, and the Battle God Hall is a very good option for you to consider." "All right, thank you, Senior. Oh, by the way, will we still be able to join the Battle God Hall if we've already joined the Tang sect?" Luo Shaofeng faltered slightly upon hearing this. "You've already joined the Tang sect. Even so, it shouldn't be an issue if you haven't already become members of the Battle Hall. However, if you've already joined the Tang sect's Battle Hall, then you should stay there. The Battle Hall gives very good benefits, and the Tang sect may be very discreet, but it's a very powerful organization. On top of that, it's also more closely related to the academy. By the way, I heard a new generation of Shrek's 7 monsters was chosen at the academy, right?" Tang Wuling scratched his head and nodded in a rather embarrassed manner. They had just been reduced to such a sorry state by that evil soul master, so he was really rather embarrassed to admit their identities. A thought immediately occurred to Luo Shaofeng at the sight of Tang Wuling's expression, and he asked, "You're not going to tell me the 7 of you are Shrek's 7 monsters, are you?" A wry smile appeared on Tang Wuling's face. "We've brought shame to the academy." No, not at all. Luo Shaofeng hurriedly waved a hand, and he even descended from the sky as he appraised Tang Wulin momentarily before continuing. Looks like there's no way you'll be joining the Battle God Hall. Tang Wulin was rather befuddled by this abrupt conclusion. Luo Shaofeng explained, Shrek 7 monsters are the future of the Academy, and they can't fall under the control of the Federation. I didn't think that I'd get to meet all of you so soon. And don't go spouting nonsense about bringing shame to the Academy. Go ask all of those injured passengers, and every one of them will laud you as heroes. If it weren't for you guys, hundreds of people would have lost their lives. The Academy would be immensely proud to have you guys as Shrek 7 monsters. I can see that you've already killed many evil soul masters, and it's no surprise that Zunfang was too much for all of you to handle. It's a good thing that he didn't know you were the newest generation of Shrek 7 monsters. Otherwise, he would have killed all of you regardless of what price he had to pay. Remember this, junior disciple brother, don't tell anyone else that you're Shrek 7 monsters until you become truly powerful. The Academy has many allies, but also just as many enemies, and those who dare to oppose our Academy are all extremely powerful beings. What are all of you doing here? I can take you to your destination and ensure your safety along the way. A surge of warmth flowed through Tang Wulin's heart upon hearing this. What a kind senior this was. We're going to undertake military training, but we don't know the specific details involved yet. Military training? Luo Shaofeng shuddered upon hearing this, and a peculiar look of horror and sympathy appeared in his eyes. I won't be able to take you there, then. You'll all have to rely on yourselves to get there. You. Luo Shaofeng seemed to be about to say something, but he decided against it in the end. He merely patted Tang Wulin's shoulder and sighed, just be careful, I'll be praying for all of you. Tang Wulin's brows furrowed slightly upon hearing this. It was quite apparent that this senior had also participated in the military training they were about to undertake, and it seemed to have been quite a traumatizing experience for him. The rescue efforts were quickly wrapped up, and all of the severely injured passengers were transported to the nearby cities. The ruined train and the damaged railway tracks all had to be repaired, but that was not something for Tang Wulin and the others to worry about. With Luo Shaofeng's help, Tang Wulin and the others were able to hide their identities and escape investigation from the Federation officials. They were then taken to the nearest city in a flying cargo mecha. Thus, a harrowing yet exhilarating night drew to a conclusion, and it was certainly not a good experience to have almost lost their lives. Can imagine the YouTube video title already. Schoolboys battle 8 ring soul Douluo at 3 AM. I'll look after him. Xu Shaoan immediately volunteered without any hesitation. Tang Wulin heaved an internal sigh of relief. All right, then let's all get some rest, and after Tang Yu recovers, we can set off again. Sounds good. Thus, everyone retired to their rooms, and Tang Wulin only departed after carrying Yue's Heng Yu into his room. Xu Shaoan stripped off Yue's Heng Yu's clothes, leaving him in his underwear, then wiped down his body with a wet towel before pulling his blankets over him. She then dragged the chair over and sat down beside his bed. The unconscious Yue's Heng Yu was still extremely handsome, even with his sickly pale complexion. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.